Shir sponsor Lui Nishma Sarabek Shalom Nabas Yitzchok. We're holding in Bava Kamet Daf Lamed Zayin. There's a re-record of the daf that we gave on Shabbos. Says the Mishnah, Shor Shul Muad Leminoi Ve'einu Muad L'She'einu Minoi. So you have a shor, and it's muad to gore other shvar, other axes. Ve'einu Muad L'She'einu Minoi. It's not muad to gore others. We'll see in the Gemara how exactly you read this first sentence. Muad lo ve'einu muad l'behimo. It's muad to an adam and not to behimo. Muad l'ktanim ve'einu muad l'gdoil. It's muad for youngsters, but not for older. Pashas means regardless if it's talking about an animal or an adam. Eight shul muad lo misham nezek shalom. Ve'cheinu muad lo misham chatzin nezek. Wherever is muad to it, you have to pay nezek shalom. And if it's not, chatzin nezek. What's the case going to be if it's muad to gore on Shabbos, but not on the weekday? Yeah, for every Shabbos is a shalom. For Shabbat, for a weekday, chatzin nezek. How does it become tam in that case? With 3 Shabbos in consecutive Shabbos, he does not gore. Because by having 3 experiences, he doesn't do what he's used to doing, so then it goes back. Now, what's the reason here that Shabbos should be different than weekdays? So, as I gedolma to this question, it's clear from the Gemara, from the Rishonim, that you need to have a clear difference between the 2 types that he's doing. For example, if he's goring in Godol and not goring in Kotom, Godol and Kotom, as we'll see in the Gemara, are different. But if he gores somebody who has a big ear and he gores someone who has a small ear, that will not be a difference. It needs to be a clear difference. So Shaila is, what about Shabbos and weekday? What's the difference? Rashi says the difference of Shabbos is why Shabbos is different. Rashi says if you should bottle mimilocha b'zochel daitol. Clear explanation of Rashi. He is not working on Shabbos. So mainly he feels very, he's in a different type of mode. And that gives him the incentive to gore. Tosfos says the reason is because the fishuro oisom balmushim noim acherim v'chashuvim beinav nochi beinav akira. Tosfos brings the Yerushalmi that he sees everybody walking with clothes he doesn't recognize. He feels that they're strangers. So that's why he starts goring. He feels he's in the wrong place. By the way, there's a famous story, with a Rogachover, that a woman came to him and said that she's not able to, that her child doesn't want to nurse on Shabbos. So the way the story goes, there are some different versions of the story. But one way it is, the Rogachover said, like a Yerushalmi. So the woman didn't know what he meant. So they took her to the Or Sameach. Or Sameach was at the same time with the Rogachover in Dvinsk. And the Or Sameach said, what the Rogachover meant is this thesis that the baby doesn't recognize his mother on Shabbos because she wears other clothing. So that's another pshat. The Ramban holds that, it's being based on the Ramban, that it's nothing to do with the fact that Shabbos is different, but possibly because Shabbos is every 8 days. It's a flugel, meaning you have an 8-day interval when he's goring on the 8th day. It's not a mashmos of the Mishnah here, because the Mishnah says that it will be 3 times that Shabbos passes by, and he doesn't gore, so it becomes a tam. He has a din on the Shabbos, not a din on the interval, but there is such a pshat. Now, one of the big nafkaminas is that the Chayim point out, what about a Yom Tov? What about Yom Tov? Is Yom Tov going to be a time where the shor also was negiach? So the point of Shalom Rashi says, because he's not allowed to work. He's not allowed to work on Yom Tov either. Even the shor Lumeishi does bring a discussion that maybe on Yom Tov you can lend him to a goy. So that's why Yom Tov may be different according to Rashi. But the point of Shalom Rashi, Yom Tov you also can work. According to Tosfos, clothing are beautiful on Yom Tov as well. But if it's an 8-day interval, then it won't work on Yom Tov. As we'll see later in the Gemara it may be also that Shabbos, that the shore just feels it's Shabbos. It feels something different. It feels a mazel, different type of atmosphere in Shabbos, and that may cause him to gore. This we'll see later in the Gemara. Says more Ikra Razvid Omar ve'einu mu'tran, Papa Omar einu mu'tran. So we have a chlik how to read the Mishnah. When the Mishnah says Shor Shulmud L'minoi, is the Mishnah saying a statement? Shor Shulmud L'minoi, einu mud le'einu minoi. If he's mud for his min, it's not mud for anything else. Or the Mishnah is giving us a case. Shor Shulmud L'minoi ve'einu mud L'minoi. And also you tested him for other meaning, and he's not mud. So then will be the din. And the word goes to explain. You need to have a case. Ve'enu means you tested him and he's not mud. But if I would not know better, if I just saw him goring 3 shvarim, I assume he's mud for everybody. The stomach could the Papa to statement. You move to one, you're not moved to the other until you don't test him. As we brings the duke from the end of the Mishnah. And Papa brings the duke from the beginning of the Mishnah. As we say for the Ketanim, Muad, Lektanim, Ve'enu Muad G'denim. It says Muad Lektanim, but not G'denim. Yamad Bishlam Ve'enu Muad Ketani, Hastom Yav Muad. If you want to tell me that the Mishnah is telling you that when one is Muad to some, you assume he's Muad to everybody unless you prove it otherwise. So here when it says Muad Lektanim, Ve'enu Muad G'denim, you want to tell me we tested him, he's not Muad G'denim. And the Chiddush is, if you would not test him, he would be Muad G'denim. What's the Chiddush? HaKavashvan. When you go from youngsters to older, now we still may have a mud. I'm assuming he is mud, even though that's, you could say, small animals is easier to gore than large animals. People tell me that without a valve, that's ain't a mud. Stoma, lo yav a mud. You want to tell me stoma? That if you gore ketanim, it's not mud g'dolim. What's the chiddush? Hashtu yishleim ketanim leketanim de almos stoma lav a mud. From one small animal to another small animal is not mud. So you want to tell me from Ketanim to G'dolim is not mud? Of course, what's the Chiddush? So why is the Mishnah tell me that? You do have to tell me that. That mud Ketanim ain't a mud G'dolim. Even though we said mud L'minoi ain't a mud L'shein Minoi. What's the Chiddush? I would think Hoyilu parts be Bahu Mino parts be. Once he starts this type, this sug, this kind of animal, he's goring that animal. It doesn't matter if it's large animals or small animals. Let's say he's going camels. I don't care if it's a small camel or a large camel. That's what I would say. So that's the chiddush. Could you papa mud ktanim ain't the mud. He's automatically a mud. Papa died in Marisha. Papa's bringing a deal for the Marisha. The Ketani mud lo'odom ain't no mud le'beimon. It says mud lo'odom, it's not mud le'beimon. Yom bishlomo ain't no mud ran. You want to tell me that that's a statement. It's mud lo'odom, it's not a mud le'beimon. Stomo love mud. That's a stomo. Hakamash from the film me'odom le'beimon, now stomo love mud. Understand the chiddush. Mud to human beings, it's not mud le'beimon. And if you read it with a vav, if it's mud lo'odom, so, and you test him, it's not mud le'beimon. Has Tom have a mud, but usually is mud. Has to show him beim lebeim or Tom mud. We already know from the ratio. And as long as you didn't test him, you assume from one animal to another animal is mud. Adu lebeim or tzuch lebeim or have a mud. So I'm telling you what lebeim is mud. What's the chiddush? Razvid Omalachos, as it says, Reisha Chazorekai. Reisha will talk about that he's changed himself. He was mud to everybody. He would have a mud lodom, mud lebeim was mud above. And then he stopped being mud for behemoth. Right? What's the case? The kai gabe behemoth loso zimri. He had a behemoth 3 times in front of him. He was not begiach. How the tailor called the loy hoda b'mehodom chazor the behemoth loy chazori, because he didn't do by Odom, and Odom was the greater one. So doing for behemoth doesn't really do a difference. Kamashram the chazor the behemoth mi chazori. The chiddush is the chazor behemoth is a chazor. So what is Razvid saying? Razvid saying that the chiddush mud l'adam is mud l'behemoth, but chazar behemoth works for behemoth. Now, we learned in Gemara. This probably everybody remembers when you're learning this Gemara. Reminds us of the daf what we learned right in the beginning of the Sechta. in the base and base. The more they brought that, why did it say Yigach by Adam and Yigoif by Shor? Because Adam is harder to be Negech than a Shor. Muad lo Adam, a Muad lo Beim will have a Muad lo Adam. That's what the Gemara said. And that the Gemara said, means like the Muad lo Adam have a Muad lo Beim, Muad lo Beim will have a Muad lo Adam. Right? So Seth Taisis over there. I feel like a papa. Doma le kamam l'shor shnog dalvei ardaf. The Muad lo Adam stom lo have a Muad lo Beim. Muad lo Adam is not Muad lo Beim. Hainu davka shnov gimel b'ri Adam. If he did 3 human beings, to be achil lo have a Muad lo Beim. Am nogach Adam l'shor v'chamor davi b'gil minim have a Muad lo kol. Right? He did 3 years Muad lo kol. But if he's negech only animals, he's not Muad lo kol. That's first shot of Tosis. They says yes. Papa says Muad lo Beim is Muad lo Beim is Muad lo Adam is only if he had an Adam doing his becoming a Muad. Says the Tosis in the second parish, Rami Nachat Pirish, Nachat Kama. Muad lo Adam sheh Muad lo Kol. V'chazor boi be'beimo. He stopped being Muad lo Beimo. Very similar to our case in our Gemara. V'nisha Muad lo Adam. Have Muad lo Beimo. He's still Muad lo Beimo. The Chazor the Beima love Chazari. Going back from Beima is not a Chazar. Muad lo Kol Chazor Muad love Muad lo Adam Chazor do Adam Chazari. So what do you say over there? Toys there says the Gemara says that you learn from the pasuk Yigach and Yigoif that Adam is different than Beima. Says Toys according to your Papa, what's the difference? Says Toys the difference is that if he was Muad lo Adam and Beima and he went back from Beima, he's still Muad lo Beima. That's what Toys says. Comes the Gilyon Mishitim Kubetis over here and asks, comes out that you have exact opposite understanding between Rizvid and Rapapa. Because in our Gemara, what does Rizvid say? If he's Muad lo Adam, automatically he's Muad lo Beima. But if he's Chayzer Beima, he stops saying Muad lo Beima, it works. He's not Muad lo Beima, he's Muad lo Adam. According to Papa, it will be the exact opposite. Muad lo Adam is not Muad lo Beima. But if he became Muad for Adam Beima and he's Chayzer boy from Beima, it's not a Chazar. Want to tell me the exact opposite source between Rizvid and Papa? That's the question of the Gilyon. Says Rav Reuven, the Pshat is Pashut. How do you become Muad lo Beima according to Rizvid? According to Rizvid, by being Muad lo Adam, automatically you Muad lo Beima. You never actually tested him. By being Muad lo Adam, automatically he's Muad lo Beima. So when he goes back from Beima, it means it was the first time he actually tested him on Beima. Says Rizvid, it works. Meaning, Rizvid and Papa are actually very close to each other. When Papa says, Muad lo Adam doesn't mean he's Muad lo Beima. So Rizvid, no, does mean he's Muad lo Beima. But if you test him and he's not, then I agree with you. Where Papa's case is that he was Muad lo Adam and Muad lo Beima. You tested him, he was Muad to both. Then suddenly he's continuing to be Muad lo Adam but not Muad lo Beima. So Papa says, no, in that case, as long as he's still Muad lo Adam, I don't think it changes his nature, and he's still Muad lo Beima in that case. So there are differences between Rizvid and Papa, obviously, but it's not such a big contrast as it seems to be in the beginning. So the more Meisive question. Sugu Zoymer, Sugu says, Muad lo Adam, Muad lo Beima, Kavochere. If you have a short, Muad lo Adam is of course Muad lo Beima. What's Kavochere? Umar lo Adam, Muad lo Beima lo Koshken. If it's Muad lo Adam, of course it's Muad lo Beima. Similar Michal Tanakamo, ain't a Muad Kama. Master Tanakama says that Muad lo Adam is not Muad lo Beima, because that's what Sugu is coming to argue. Mashra like Rapapa. Amalei Rizvid answers, Sugu is a Chazor. Talk about the went back home. The Tanakama. That's what Sugu is Tanakama. The Kohamat Chazor the Beima Chazor. As Rizvid said, that when he was Muad lo Adam, he was Muad lo Beima. But then the Chazor lo Beima, it works. Chazor lo Beima, loy Chazor. Chazor does not work. Mikavochere Me'odom. You learn from Adam. He's not going back by Adam, you're not going back from Beima as well. So that explains souls. Rashi brings another way. Toshva. They told the Buddha. So let's now focus on the conversation. They told the Buddha. He's more for Shabbos, he's not more to Yom Yisachor. So Rebbe says he pays for Shabbos as a Shalom, and for Yisachor Chatzir. Now, according to Rapapa, the way you read the Mishnahs without a vav. So they tell a statement to Rabbi Yehuda. Muda the Shabbosos ain't the Muda Moisachol. They're stating to Rabbi Yehuda. They're teaching him a lesson. Then Rabbi Yehuda says, he's the Kshav Chatzirezek. Yeah, that's what you said. Bishtumbav, you say with a Vov. So they're asking a question. He's Muda Shabbosos, but not Muda Yosachol. What will be his din? And if the answers. But if you say without a Vov, the conversation doesn't go. That's what the Gemara is asking. It says the Gemara. It says with the Vov. They're asking him a question. Muda Shabbosos, and not Yosachol. What should be the din? He's answering, there's a Kshon and Shabbos, Chatzirezek and Moisachol. You see without a Vov, a Gemara, the Kabbalah, they're teaching him. What is he answering them? They already told him. Look at the ratio, it's also in Tukuk. Whatever he's more appears in the Kshon, whatever he's not more appears in Chatzirezek, that's what it says in the beginning of the Mishnah. It says with a Vov, it says, when a Behem was more to this, not to this, you should know, for this you pay the Shalom, for this you pay Chatzirezek. And if you tell me a statement, more to this is not more to this. So, Pastor, you already ended the sentence. Why come it to add? Mood is Nezek Shalom and not Mood Chatzirezek. We didn't know that. Meaning, if you say that this is a case, so we say like this: in the case that an animal is more to this, an animal to this, the halacha will be you pay Nezek Shalom to this, and Chatzirezek to this. But you tell me a statement, you say more to this, not more to this. I already know. I know exactly what you're telling me. More to this, not more to this. What are you coming to add? He pays Nezek Shalom to this, Chatzirezek to this. I know that that's the halacha. So one more line according to this. Even if you hold like a papo, that more to this, not more to this, nogach shor chamor vegomol nasa more lekol. If you negach all three, it becomes more to everybody, to all animals, because he's not differentiating. As we mentioned before, Toises, the Beis Muvei says, according to a papo, if you negach shor chamor and adam, it becomes more to adam as well. That's what he says over here. This is a big machlokes in the Rishonim. Does it become muad to an adam? Do we say that the hada of shor, chamor, and adam makes him muad for adam as well? Meaning, if he does shor, chamor, and adam, he's for sure muad to all animals. But the shor, chamor, and adam tell me he's muad for an adam as well. It's a machlokes in the Rishonim. And I'm going to explain the machlokes is like this. We spoke about this, Chakiro, many times. What is the definition of muad? Does muad mean that we figure out what is its true nature? Or the fact that he's going 3 times to show me who he really is? Or that after 3 times he gets used to goring? So if you're telling me that after 3 times he gets used to goring, he didn't get used to goring another. Yeah, he gored 3 times. One of them was odd. But it doesn't mean he got used to goring on them. But if 3 times shows me that his true nature is that he's goring, and one of the goring was Adam, could say, it shows you his true nature. His true nature is that he's a gorer. He gores even human beings. Okay. Ra'a shor nogach, shor lo nogach. He says a shor is negach. He says shor is not negach. Shor nogach, shor lo nogach. Again, one ox is negach, one is not. Shor nogach, shor lo nogach. Nasa mud the sirugim mishraim. So because mud the sirugim mishraim, so he says the reason why we say the 6th time, to tell me that the next time is negach, it will be, he will have, he become a mud because he has a sirugim. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Next time, yes, he will be chayav. Meaning different types of animals. What is the gap? What is that? What is the gap? What is that? Now it's mud the sirugim lakoil. Because mud the sirugim meaning intervals or in yes no, going back for all animals. For every second animal, it is a mud. So when you buy lu, question. Nogach without flamzaim base. Nogach shor, chamor gamal. There's a gach, an axe, an axe, an axe. and then a donkey, and then a camel. My, Hai Shor Baso, the third shor, was the shor Shadin Lay. You say, okay, he did 3 shor. The third shor belongs to the sequence of shor. The shor of the eye, lo yait. He's moved to shor, but not to other things. How he did shor Chamor Gamal? No, the third shor belongs to the original series. Or maybe Hai Shor Baso, what the Chamor Gamal Shadin Lay, the eye, the Kulu Mini. Do you say it goes Basa Chamor Gamal and he's moved for everybody? Right? So do you say that way? Teis explains that it makes more sense that first of all you go based on the first, not the one, and second Basa Shor. So you have over here Shor, and makes sense the third one goes Basa the Shor. It's also the first and also the same time. Or you say no, you go Basa Chamor Gamal. And now the Gemara continues and says, what about Chamor Gamal, Shor? What about Chamor Gamal and then a Shor? Hai Shor Kamu Basa Chamor Gamal Shadin, you go Basa Chamor Gamal, which is the first. The Kulu means moved to all types. Or you deal with the Shor Shadin, or you go Basa the Shor, which is last. And it's moved to Shor and not to others. In other words, as Toys points out, the first, the more broader question, Shor, Chamor Gamal, is the middle Shor. Go Basa to the end, Basa to the beginning. It makes more sense to go Basa to the beginning. Because you have 2 reasons to go Basa to the beginning. Because it's Shvarim and it's first. But what happens the opposite? You have Chamor Gamal Shor. Now the Shvarim are in the end. Do you still go based on the Shvarim or you go based on Chamor Gamal? And then one has the same question regarding days. Right, so again, the more end of Dimul Tashvarim should live like the Shvarim died, the Minachim Loyayin, that's going Shvarim, not other animals. Shabbos, just Shabbos. He did Shabbos, then another Shabbos. Ve'echal b'shel Sheni b'Shabbos, then Sunday, Monday. Now, Hai Shabbos b'Sraisa b'Tas Shabbos, so the Sheni go based on Shabbos. It belongs to the sequence of Shabbos. Because the Shabbos of the eye is always Tachoy Lo Yain, it belongs to Shabbos. It's not moved for the weekdays. Or Dilma b'Soyechal b'Shabbos Sheni b'Shabbos Sheni, you go based on Sunday and Monday. The eye of the Kuliyam. Now he has Shabbos Sunday, Monday. You go based on that. Or if you don't go based on that, what happens if the first case are not the same? Hey b'Shabbos, ve'erev Shabbos, v'Shabbos. You have Thursday, Friday, and Shabbos. And then Shabbos. Now, I Shabbos Kamai supposed to Hey b'Shabbos, ve'erev Shabbos Shadinlei. Do you put it with the sequence of Thursday and Friday? The other the Kul Yom is moved for all days. Or do my Shabbos Kamai, so the first Shabbos, Pastor Shabbos with the Shadinlei. Go with Shabbos, which is the end. Well, the Shabbos with the eye. And his moved the Shabbos. More says in all these cases, take koi, we're not so clear what the halacha is. It says the Gemara. Nagach Shor Yom Tisvol B'Chodesh Dei. Nagach Shor on the 15th of this month. Yom Tzayin B'Chodesh Dei on the 16th of the next month. Yom Tzayin B'Chodesh Dei on the 17th of the next month. Plug to the Rav Shmuel. So what is Rav Shmuel? The Itmar. We learned. Also Yom Tisvol B'Chodesh Dei. Tisvol in this month. Yom Tzayin B'Chodesh Dei. Yom Tzayin B'Chodesh Dei. We're talking about a nido. A nido has a period on the 15th of the first month, 16th of the next month, 17th of the next month. Rav says it's a vesses. She did it. Shmuel says no, you need to create intervals of skipping one day. So she has to do one more month. She has to do Yud Ches of the next month. So that will be the same thing over here. Now, Taisus points out, what happens if she sees Tisvov? So everybody agrees. Tisvov. So he becomes more than Tisvov. Or the Isha becomes Nidal Tisvav. The only question is, if you're adding one day, does the addition to be one more day or not? And that's the Shita Mot to show you that's your Pascal Mahalacha. The Ramban disagrees with this whole thing, because according to Taisus, means that the day of the month makes a difference. So if it's the same day, for sure you create a pattern based on the day of the month. If you have an extra day, discuss your Rav Shmuel. But according to Ramban, how can the day of the month create a pattern? The months are different. Some months are 30 days, some months are 29 days. There's no pattern. You want to tell me the name of the day of the month just because it's called the 15th and create a pattern based on that? So Ramban says doesn't make sense, and therefore Ramban says the only way we understand the Gemara is we talk about months that are all the same amount of days. We can have this year, Cheshvan and Kislev or Chosar, only 29 days. So if you have, she sees a Cheshvan, Kislev, Tevis, it's the same amount of days in between. The pattern stays the same. That's what Ramban wants. But all the Rishonim argue. The Rajba explains. Says the Rajba, what's the reason? Because yes, the day of the month does make a difference. Because when every time Beis Din Mekadesh the Chodesh, the world changes. It brings the Gemara Yerushalmi that says that if a young child, a 3-year-old, we know that if she, after a 3-year-old turns 3, if she loses her virginity, it doesn't come back. Below the age of 3, it does come back. What happens to a girl who is already 3 years old, and then Beis Din decided to do Ibur Hashem, to add a month to the year? She turns to be now 3. Says the Yerushalmi, her virginity will come back. Nature changes. When the Beis Din Mekadesh the Chodesh, nature changes. So the 50th of the month means 50 days after nature changed. So therefore, yes, there is something going on in this day of the month that can change things. Can make a Yeshiva a Veses, a period, can make a Shor B'Nogiach. The Achronim are even bothered by why the Ramban doesn't say Ramban agree with his Yerushalmi, and they come to answer different ways. But that's what the Rashba learns. I saw someone want to say maybe that's also Pshat and Shabbos. Going back to what we learned in the Mishnah. Why is Shabbos different? The Shor feels that something is different on Shabbos. That difference causes him to do something. Says the Gemara, Omar Rova, Shema kol shofar v'nogach, he hears a shofar, he gores. Kol shofar v'nogach, he hears another shofar in his nogach. Kol shofar v'nogach, so the shofar makes him, pushes him to be nogach. Nase muad the shofar, so because muad the shofar. So pshito, it's a chiddush. Maybe you'll say the first shofar it didn't really cause him to be nogach. It scared him, and that's why he's nogach. He didn't know. Second time, third time, okay, you need to establish this. I mean, he hears the shofar multiple times, but the first time you heard a shofar that didn't really cause him to do anything. Well, it wasn't familiar for him. Come out shortly, you say no. You could create a pattern even when the first time he ever heard a shofar. Says the Mishnah, Shor Yisrael shenogach shor shel hegdish, v'shel hegdish shenogach shor shel hegdish, pater. If a Shor Yisrael gored a shor of hegdish, or vice versa, pater, shenema shor re'eyu v'lo shor shel hegdish. It says shor re'eyu has to be your friend, and hegdish is not a friend, so it doesn't work both ways. Shor Yisrael shenogach shor shel kanani, pater. The shor of Yisrael gored a shor of a goyis, pater. It's not re'eyu. Sheknani shenaver l'shor Yisrael, when a goy's shor gores a shor of Yisrael, ben tam ben mun b'shar nezik shalom, you pay nezik shalom, he always pays nezik shalom, and then we'll see in the next daf what's the reason that a goy does pay if he's not a re'eyu. Says the Gemara, Mastis the look of Shir Menaseh. How much is the look of Shir Menaseh? The Tanya, it says in the Brayso, shor shel hegdish shenogach shor shel hegdish, v'shel hegdish shenogach shor shel hegdish. Either way, pater shema shor re'eyu v'lo shor shel hegdish. That's like our Mishnah. Shir Menaseh says no. Shor shel hegdish shenogach shor shel hegdish pater. That I agree. Hegdish is goring your pater. Hegdish shenogach shor shel hegdish being tam ben muad b'shar nezik shalom. But if shor shel hegdish gores hegdish, being tam ben muad, you pay nezik shalom. So I'm in my kasor of Shimon. What does he hold? Re'eyu dafka. It says re'eyu. I feel shel hegdish shenogach shel hegdish lifter. So it should go both ways. Dafka re'eyu. If re'eyu lav dafka, if it's not dafka. Feel the hegdish now, but cannot get the hegdish chayav. So hegdish who's goring a hegdish should be chayav. V'chi teimo. The oil kasov re'eyu dafka. If re'eyu is dafka, we will be hegdish. Kinogach the hegdish. Maybe you'll tell me the reason hegdish who gores a hegdish. Hainu time the mechadim is chayav. We should become nice and kavachomer. It's a kavachomer. The hegdish from a hegdish. Umay hegdish kinogach hegdish chayav. If the hegdish is the hegdish chayav, kinogach the hegdish lo kosh kedim chayav. So it was like this. Hegdish was the ger hegdish potter says re'eyu. Hegdish was the ger hegdish should be potter because of re'eyu. But you have a kavachomer. Kavachomer tells you if a hegdish who's the ger hegdish chayav, kosh kedim the ger hegdish. So if so, dayu lavoim edin let's get into dayu as we learned earlier. Dayu means you can learn more than kavachomer. When a hegdish is the ger is chayav l'chatzinezik. Ma lo olam tam chatzinezik achanami chatzinezik. It should be chatzinezik. So why is Rabbi Shimon has to tell you that you chayav nezik shalom? Hello, Mashlokish. I call you b'chol nezik shalom. When the Torah says you chayav, it means nezik shalom. K'shipretcha kosev re'eyu kabeitan. What does it say re'eyu? The pasuk says re'eyu. Shor kigach shor re'eyu. That's what it says v'chatos kasper. That's what it says chatzrezik. So re'eyu is mentioned dafka by shor tam, by the shor that was just started being negach. Re'eyu the tam is shor chatzrezik. Dafka re'eyu tam is paid chatzrezik. Bechlal the behegdish, being tam ben muad misham nezik shalom. But behegdish, You always pay attention to Shalom. Why? Because the more concludes the Chesed Mudalef. In Ken, meaning if not so, Lichter Kro Lahai Re'eyu Gabei Mud. Write Re'eyu by Mud. What does it mean? So there's a few pshatim in the Rishonim. We'll start with a Pashup pshat that is rather in places the way the Maharshama Durabasra explains. The Torah writes two psukim. There's a pasuk written by Tam, where it says Ki Gashart Shoreyu, and then it says Chotzos Kasper. There, the din is, it says Re'eyu by Tam. Then it says the pasuk that speaks about a regular short that's Negeach, doesn't say Re'eyu. So I want to say like this: if you want to tell me that a hedyot is different, it doesn't pay by hegdish, just write Re'eyu by Sharmud. Sharmud and Negeach Re'eyu. Then you're chayav. No, not. It doesn't say Re'eyu by Mud. So it means by Mud, you're always chayav. Now, why do you want to tell me that Tam is different than Mud? By Shen Beregel, Tam and Mud are the same. You don't find that Shen, the first 3 times you have only Chatzin. It's a chiddush of a Torah that Tam pays only Chatzin. Even if you want to tell me that Tam is a Knas, it's a chiddush of a Torah. Torah tells you should know that I'm treating a Shor Megech Tam as a Knas. There it says Re'eyu. So meaning, and that's what Torah explains, the fact that the Torah wrote Re'eyu only by Tam and not by Mud tells you something. I didn't say Re'eyu by Mud. It tells you that Dafka by your friend, then Tam is different than Mud and Tam is Chatzin. But by Hegdish, that is not Re'eyu, you don't say the special din of Tam. And you remain with the original din of Mud. There's no difference between Tam and Mud. That's what Torah says. Rashi brings you 2 explanations. The first pshat of Rashi is, because it says by Tam, V'huot B'ba'alov. You have to be made in front of the owner. Hegdish doesn't have an owner. So therefore it can be that Tam speaks about Hegdish. So it says, Re'eyu Hegdish, tell me Hegdish is Patur. Now what about, it says Re'eyu to tell you that Hegdish is different than your friend. And it means you have to pay the whole thing. But because by Hegdish it says who would be Bolov, it has to be the owner, and there's no Ados, then Hegdish is excluded. So according to this, this pshat of Rashi is very hard because it's chaftik or chasov v'safar. The word doesn't say anything about it. The word just says Re'eyu. According to this, Re'eyu means you're excluded, and then you have to use another pasuk called Bayov. The second pshat of Rashi is that the idea is like this. It says that you have Shoreyu. Sure, there's no Negeach Shoreyu. Tam Mishal Chatzin Mud Mishal Nezek Shalem. Mashra, your friend. He has a friend, and he has not a friend. What does it mean you have a friend, you have not a friend? A regular person. His fellow friend is a friend. Hegdish is not a friend. So there you have a difference. If it's Re'eyu, Chatzin Nezek Shalem. If it's not your friend, all Nezek Shalem. By Hegdish, there's no friend. Hegdish doesn't have a friend. There's no Re'eyu by Hegdish. So you mean by Hegdish, you can't say Re'eyu. So you exclude completely from the whole thing. Again, according to the same Pshat Rashi, also a little bit is Chosam and a Sefer, but it's better because you're learning everything from Re'eyu. It says Re'eyu. So Re'eyu tells you that Hegdish is different than Hedjit. In what way? The fact that it says Re'eyu by Tam tells you that you need to have the ability to have Re'eyu. And that's a regular guy. But Hegdish doesn't have the ability to have Re'eyu, so then you don't pay anything. And if you want to tell me otherwise, you should buy Re'eyu by Mud. Re'eyu Batam intrigues us, starts us with that conversation to tell you that maybe there's a chiluk. So then Shabbatim the Rishonim, how do you know at the end of the day that Hedyot is different than Hegdish according to Shir Bebenasio? Okay, we'll end over here. Kol Tov.